je sais pas, j'irai après. Good morning, everyone. I let the last people get seated. Hi. So welcome to you all to this first oral presentation of the M2 projects of the P20 cohort. Here is a picture of last year. Just maybe a few words before starting, so you all have in mind what are the M2 projects. So today you're gonna hear 6 teams of 9 to 12 students that are organized as studios, and they have to work on the conception and pre-production, or at least part of the pre-production of a whole game of 6 games, 6 teams, 6 games. You see the title of these games. We're gonna hear 3 of them this morning, then 3 others this afternoon. And we organize the time so you will have time to go visit the teams on their box, on their working box at lunchtime and also at the end of the day. So, maybe some few more words about the game, the projects. So the teams have 4 months to work on these games and to deliver a kind of vertical slice. They are followed by a jury of professionals, so thank you for being here. And today we are at about, I would say, 5 weeks after the beginning. And we're gonna meet again with you, the jury, in about 5 more weeks. And then we will have the final presentation mid-February, so after about 4 months and a half of work. So many thanks to you, jury, and feel free to ask questions. Please share feedbacks. It's very valuable for them. And of course, complete the evaluation file either today or later on in the following weeks. So we will in the following week. No S. So if you will, you will be kind to send your feedbacks maybe before the end of next week. So we can share them to the students and they can work with that as well. So many thanks to you, and a particular thanks to the godmother of this cohort, Sandrine Dubois, who will maybe say a few words to everybody. Thank you.
Big head, sorry. Hello everyone, thank you. I would like to thank you first people of Cnam-Enjmin for thinking about me and giving me this opportunity. I'm very pleased and very happy to be here this year. I hope I'm going to be a person with good advice and help you with your project. So if I have to say something about video game, I tend to think that video game is an applied art like any other field, like architecture or fashion or cinema. And it is something that shapes and creates the cultural world we're living in. So I hope this year is going to be a year for you to develop your authorship, to be creative, express yourself, and have a lot of liberty to do it. If I would have one advice regarding my specialty, is that even if I say that you are author and you are creator, at the end you are not designing for yourself. You are designing for someone else. And it's very important to think about that because it actually helps you a lot on making your decision and on making a piece that is coherent. And in addition to that, you are doing a collective piece, which is very tough, and I think it's the toughest things to do in video game production. Sometimes we forget to say how tough it is to work together. And when you are not thinking about your personal taste or your personal opinion, but you are thinking about the end user, the player, it makes people look in the same direction and be coherent. So that would be my first main direction advice. And if I can add a tiny one in this, that we always forget to say, and it's quite natural, it's be kind. Be kind to yourself, be kind to the people among you with your team, and be kind to your player. It's the most important thing. That's it for me.
Thank you so much. Thank you all to be there. Thank you. And maybe the final words. Let's go. So let's welcome the first team of this morning, Mimic Hunt. Please, a round of applause for them.
Hello everyone, thanks again for coming here today. We're going to present you our game Mimic Hunt. It's a social horror games like Lethal Company or Phasmophobia, in which you hunt down mimics, dangerous parasites that hide in human belongings inside their home. You play as a mimic hunter, a member of a local neighborhood association trying to solve the issue of mimics by themselves because governments, officials and professional hunters won't get involved in that matter. And even though it sounds funny to hunt down furniture inside a home, it's a very dangerous job actually. So the game is a four-player online tactical FPS with a proximity voice chat. It's a co-op game also, where you have to work as a team with your friends to be the most efficient hunter. The game takes place in indoors environments like homes, office, and like warehouses, and they create tension and confusion. And by killing mimics, you earn money with which you can purchase better weapons and tools, and you gain trust in the neighborhood by completing contracts. And you can unlock new weapons and new tools.
These are our design pillars. The first one is uncanny and scary, meaning that our game is not goofy. It has a very absurd fantasy, but which also kind of makes it fun, and it's very dangerous, so there are very dangerous enemies around. The next one is strategy and tactic, meaning that preparation really helps you to defeat the game, and in general, run and gun is not a good idea. The last one is cooperations at the core. We really want to focus on the multiplayer experience, and we really want to make use of the proximity voice chat in the game mechanics, and generally we want the players to work as a team. Now I will walk you through our game loops. This is the meta game loop. So first you start in the lobby with all your other players and you select a contract. Contract meaning that there is someone saying, oh, please come to my house. I think there's something weird here. I have mimics. Then you prepare for the contract, meaning you buy weapons, you buy items that you think you might use, and you discuss how you want to hunt the mimics, what is your tactic, ideally. Then you enter the level and hunt the mimics. You need to find them first, of course, and also you want to destroy as little furniture as possible, because a good exterminator doesn't destroy the house. And afterwards you exit the level or die. Generally you can exit the level at any time, and after the level you get money for your job. You get a bonus if all mimics were killed, bonus if no furniture was damaged, and also there may be a penalty if something was destroyed. Now to our core game loop, what happens when you're actually inside the level? So you go in the level and first you're inside the house, you scout around the house, where could the mimics be? Maybe you hear some sound cues that tell you in which room the mimic is. If you have something in mind, oh, maybe this fridge could be the mimic, you inspect the object. Inspecting means there's no interaction with the environment, but rather mimics have a little idle animation, they have a little shiver, they make a very subtle sound that you can notice when you're very close by, and you may also use your mimic whistle, like a sound that makes them like answer back to you or encourage them to move a little more. And once you're sure you found the mimic, you can do whatever tactic you have discussed with your team. Maybe you all shoot at it directly, or you hide behind a corner and then trigger the mimic. And yeah, generally there are two ways to kill the mimic, either by targeting the weak points directly or by destroying the host object, which then also damages the mimic. And in general, we want players to cooperate with any mechanic in the game. And after that step, there can be many things. Either the mimic dies, or it flees and switches object again. Then the loop starts again, you have to scout around the house, or the player dies, or you exit the level on purpose because you think you found all the mimics. But to exit, all players need to leave through the front door together. And for the controls, we have mouse and keyboard, and it's important to say that there is a special mimic whistle button for the players to use. And then we also have controls for the controller, and that's it.
About level design, as I said before, it's indoors levels like homes, office, warehouses. They are adapted to a 4-player experience with enough space to move around with friends, but there is it's composed of multiple connections between rooms to allow mimics to move around chaotically, to reward player if they know the map, and to encourage player to work as a team because they have to cover different entry exit point. There is an alternating between choke points and tight spaces to create tension because player won't be able to move around easily and to get to safety easily. And there are open spaces with like a kind of relief when you come inside this place. And but there is a lot of tension also because there will be a lot of props in those rooms, and so there will be a lot of potential threats.
So about our target audience, we determined it by doing an extensive research on reviews of games similar to Mimic Hunt in their concepts, such as Lethal Company, Phasmophobia, and GTFO. We have found 3 distinct aspects in which our audience could find interest in. The first one is the social aspect, the fact to play and have fun with friends through communication and funny situations. The second one is the horrific aspect, which refers to genuinely liking horror games in which you experience intense emotions such as fear, anxiety, or paranoia, for example. And the third one is the trial aspect, which means providing a good challenge and allowing players to get better at the game by understanding its mechanics in depth and to optimize the way they play. Our audience ranges from mid to hardcore because it is required for players to have a good understanding of the FPS genre, to be able to move around efficiently in a virtual 3D space, but also to understand mechanics involving complex behavior for mimics.
Since our user experience hinges a lot on the proximity voice chat, we had to make sure we challenged ourselves to make that feature as accessible as possible. In that way, we were implementing an audio retranscription to make sure even deaf or players using another language can participate in a party. Likewise, we're also thinking about other accessibility features, including for controls or even for bad internet connections.
So here are our Mimic Hunters. Their outfit was inspired by pest control exterminators, and obviously they are faceless as the players are the characters. Despite the uniform, they have custom colored details and headpieces, so they are easily recognizable from each other.
Regarding the artistic direction of the project, we aim to create environments built around the following pillars: uncanny, vintage styles of 18 America, imperfection, uncomfortable, and the use of lighting will help us to set the mood for each room with textures that lean toward realism. We plan to use shapes inspired by expressionism, incorporating distortion, apprehension, subjectivity, and the contrasts. Everything is strange, and anything could be a mimic. The goal is to draw inspiration from it to create a blend of realism and subtle distortion, generating a sense of uncanniness.
Our sound design is built on 2 pillars, immersion and tension. Our goal is to make players feel fully inside the mimic-infested house, and to achieve this, we pay particular attention to acoustics, spatial audio, and proximity voice chat treatment as well. We want to keep players constantly on edge, and the house itself feels alive. with punctual sounds emitted by the house structure, mimics moving around and shifting, noise creating an atmosphere of paranoia. As if the house was alive, and our main inspiration are The Thing by John Carpenter or games like Amnesia: The Bunker. So when we mix up our visuals and sound intentions, this is how it feels.
So, as you can see, our mimics are an insectoid parasitic species with an alien feel to it. The inspirations as well are John Carpenter's The Thing, and for the colors, a lot of the Zergs from StarCraft. So it has the insectoid side with also fleshy bits to have interesting textures. They must look like the furniture is like a shell for them that reveals the mimic's organs when it's moving.
So mimics are nasty and unpredictable creatures, so we intend for sticky, wet noises to merge with furniture's texture to blur the line between creature and object. And to set their sound personality, we intend to create an high-pitched vocalization, and to achieve this, we craft screams made from processed mix between human voices and animal growls. Here is a mock-up.
Mimics are procedurally generated by adding organs between the furniture parts in runtime. So organs are bundled up together in bundles, and each bundles contain multiple variations of the same organ, and it's randomized, and the choice is a network, so all players see the same mimic. Organs can also be physicked. And here's a video of the full lifetime of a mimic.
To make our multiplayer game, we use Unreal Engine 5, the Epic online services, and the game playability system. And for now, we have succeeded to do basic multiplayer. Player can create lobbies, they can join lobbies with a code, and we also have replicated third-person animations.
So for the project, we assessed a couple of risks that we separated into development and markets. Obviously, the online is an extra layer of difficulty for us, but everything is working fine for now. Also, the mimic generation is the second big tech point that we need to be careful of. It's definitely a bit difficult and technical, but again, it's also working very well for now. We have a couple plugin dependencies, and one of the risks is that if we have many bugs, that the game goes from serious to goofy, which is something we definitely want to avoid. And for risk related to markets, we have to know that there are very strong competitors established, which are Lethal Company, of course, Phasmophobia, and still Left 4 Dead. And the three of them, they individually gather more than 20,000 players a day on Steam, which is huge. So we have to take this into account, and probably that the game should be sold. This is not a very analyzed rate yet, but should be sold at a relatively low price, so around 20 euros. Our key selling points, so basically it's a first-person shooter in a horror game, two very known genres. But the way it's different, it's because we are not professionals, and the way we can defeat the mimics is only by using cooperation. So compared to other games, the co-op mechanics, and not just being together and shoot together, the actual co-op mechanics are at the core, and this is the only way you can solve the mimic problem in the houses. Also, you get to be the hunter and not the hunted, unlike some similar games. And for a horror game, we also decided to go a little different, as you saw from Laura's presentation. We want to avoid this very cliché dark house in which it is very obviously haunted by a ghost. We go from the cozy and a little uncanny thing is, so you feel comfortable, but also it starts to be a little uncanny, and then in contrast with the terrifying mimics. And a little vertical slicing. So for now, you heard many different systems and features. We aim to do only one contract, so that we one level, which is 5 rooms at most. We would have only one type of gun with only one type of bullets, only one type of mimic, even though we design different ones, and also one equipment. We also plan to do, we are actually doing the online multiplayer and the mimic generation. This is for de-risking the project, so we basically do the hardest thing and make sure that they work. And for now, they are working. And progression and money will be placeholder. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, please ask them, and we welcome all of your feedbacks. Thank you.
Thank you. So who wants to react? Make a question, yeah.
Hello, I'm Mathieu from Tactical Adventures. First of all, congrats for a great presentation. It was very clear, so thank you. I have just a quick question. It's a good thing that you use mimics instead of ghosts because it's more original. But don't you fear that a bright lighting is going to reduce the sense of fear and panic compared to a much darker atmosphere?
Well, it could be. Like, I think our strategy is we have the lighting first and then we try out doing gameplay or ask playtesters what they feel about it. And if we see that the lighting is not working, we will make it darker and try to get to the tone that we actually want to achieve.
Thank you. I will take a question online and then I come to you. So, Mishka, if you want to take the mic.
Yes.
Yes, we hear you. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Okay, perfect. Hi, I'm Mishka. I have a studio here in Argentina. It's called El Faro, and I'm also a teacher. I've been teaching game design and production for 11 years. So my question is a little bit related to the last one. I'm a bit scared that you're trying to make a horror game that's too light, and also I'm afraid that if the players are the hunters, as you said, are not the hunted in this game in particular, how do you expect to transfer the horror theme into it? Like, can the mimic surprise the players if, like, I move past the mimic? Will it knock me out in just one swing? Or how are we going to get the horror part of this? Taking into account that we are the hunters and it's really like up and very 80s American dream and that.
All right, thank you for the question. It's very valid. So the thing is that the mimics, of course, they can attack you by surprise. And generally the mimics are very strong, so they could like kill you within 2 hits. And like that's the idea for now. And also we want to play, like the players don't have the super strong guns, right? So currently the idea is as the starter gun to have like a revolver with like only 5 to 6 bullets, which is maybe not enough for one player to kill a mimic on their own. And also ammunition is kind of scarce. You need to decide, do I want to take a lot of ammunition with me into the level or do I rather pick an item? And then it makes it really difficult for players to actually kill the mimic in the level. And they go in maybe thinking I'm super strong, but actually the mimic is maybe hunting me again. And that kind of turns the stakes around, which then creates the kind of panic and horror feeling in the players. At least that's what we hope for.
And also I can add a little point regarding the lighting, as you said. How do you make a game that is horror while not being completely in the dark? We really want to do, or at least try, again, we have this backup option of basically turning off the lights, to have this feeling of, okay, you come into a house, it's supposed to be cozy, it is cozy, the lighting is nice, it's like Edith Finch, very good. And then you start looking for mimics and you think, okay, this looks kind of weird. This looks kind of weird. Why is this there and not over there? Something is off here. And slowly you go into this paranoia and you remember anything can be a mimic. So anything can almost one-shot you. So you are in this, we find this contrast really interesting of you are in a place that's supposed to feel safe, but also any step you make, any object you touch can jump at you and kill you. And that's what we want to try as much as we can to do for the horror aspect. That is, the thing comes from, the horror comes from the things, the potential problems, the potential things that can jump at you even if you don't see them. And it's even more interesting if it's something that should be something cozy and safe. So we want to try it, and again, backup option is we turn off the lights, and if you put monster with legs like we showed in the dark, this will work. It's just much less original, so at least we want to try it this way.
Hello, Rémi from Ubisoft. Thank you for your presentation. It was very clear. I do have a question on the cooperation aspect of your game. You said you want to push the cooperation aspect, just not shooting together at the Mimic, but I didn't see any example in your presentation. What are you planning to do gameplay-wise to push the cooperation aspect of the game?
I'm very happy you asked this question because I didn't mention it. So, like as I explained before, like it's very difficult to kill a mimic alone because you have restricted bullets and your guns are not the best. And also, we already thought about certain mechanics that increase the cooperation. For example, we thought about having teammates revive each other. That's possible. Like, for example, you have in Apex Legends. Then we also thought about what if I cannot heal myself, but I only can heal other players. That would also be interesting. And also for every item that we would create for the game, the idea is to incorporate the cooperation. For example, we had the idea for the one item that we're going to make for the vertical slice to have like an ice spray that stuns the mimic. One player has to spray the mimic continuously in order for it to be stunned, and then other players need to shoot at the mimic. That would be our ideas for now.
Thank you.
Hi, Antoine from Ninja Theory. Thank you for the presentation. It's super interesting to see this kind of project, especially when we see the reference like Phasmophobia or Lethal Company. That those are really like played games. So it's cool to see a twist on them. Something that maybe kind of relate to some of the other questions. You mentioned as part of your pillars about the game being uncanny and scary, and one of the main ones being not goofy. How do you plan on enforcing that, maybe, like especially in like a cooperation game where I know Phasmophobia is a very horrific, like very scary game, supposed to be, but then you play it and you realize, well, if there's a smidge of a bug or people have fun and play tricks with each other, Lethal Company has more fun aspect, but other games are kind of similar. So do you plan to do like anything to force player to be very serious about like be scared now, or do you maybe try to think about like how you can play with it instead?
Thank you for your feedback. It's a really interesting question because when you play with friends, you always want to make joke, and when you are playing as a team, you feel very much stronger facing the danger. So I think one of our best lever will be to create situation where player will have to split. For example, if there is a mimic that is attacking them, they will have maybe, if there is in danger, they will have to run away from the room, and there is like multiple connection between rooms and corridors, so maybe they will take different paths to the nearest exit. And then it will create tension because, oh, I'm not with my friend anymore. I will have to find them back with a proximity voice chat. So they will maybe be alone in the house. So it will create moments, peaks of tension when they got separated, facing the danger, and and they will. I think it will create. It will be more scary to have like those type of roller coaster thing, like very calm. You are with your friend. You can make jokes, and then action, tension. You have to run around, find the mimic, hunt him down, and maybe you are alone, and that way we'll create like these scary moments, I think.
So I have a couple questions. First, I just wanted to make a point with the lighting that everyone keeps mentioning. I do think it's possible to make a scary game with a bit more natural light like you guys are going for, but the scary aspect is going to have to heavily rely on sound then. Is the sound coming from another player? Is it coming from a mimic? This has a house from the 80s, it creaks and cracks everywhere. You're heavily going to have to rely on sound to make it a scary tactic. And then my question is more on the behavior of the mimics. So obviously you're trying to make a hardcore game. Is the hard part of the game being finding them or hunting them? I'm getting a feeling it's the hunting them. Obviously the objective of the mimic is to kill the players and eat, I guess, I don't know. Would it be the mimics only walking on the ground? Are you guys planning to have more of a Left 4 Dead Hunters vibe, goes on the ceiling, jumps on the player? Would the mimic realize, oh, I'm maybe at a disadvantage, I should maybe go and hide as a furniture again, so they have to find me? But now the player knows what kind of mimic they're searching for, so they have a bit of advantage. Okay, it's a lamp, I don't know, so like shoot at all the lamps in the house or something like that.
Maybe we can both answer, but I think for the walking on ceilings, it's not going to happen because of technical restraints, and I think our technical department is already pretty much done for the task. But to the behavior, definitely the mimics, for like the current loop is that if you find a mimic and the first attack happens and the mimic realizes this is not going to work, it took too much damage at once, it will try to flee and get away from you to get out of sight of the player as fast as possible. And as soon as it's out of sight, it will switch objects into any object. Then you need to start again. And then the mimic will also not be in the idle animation. It will hide because it knows there's an enemy around, which is then the player. And it will try to lure the player in, making a sound, and lure them in. But the player cannot see them anymore because they're now doing nothing. They're not doing the idle. And then they can really quickly jump at you. That's also very important why the player has the mimic whistle, to kind of use it correctly so that the mimic gets into the idle again and gets more comfy again, because it's a sound that the mimics like, so that you can again then be in the better position and not the mimic. Does it answer your question?
Hello, I'm Luca from Ubisoft, project coordinator. You were saying that the mimic can kill or injure the player. Could you give us more detail on the gameplay loop as a player when you are maybe dead or knocked out? Do you have any gameplay plan for that?
You mean the revive mechanic, or what exactly?
Well, if your player is, you said that maybe the player can be killed by the mimic. What happens? Does it revive? Like the player can respawn, or does he have like a chat and he can help the other players find the mimic? Do you have any plan on that?
I think it's not super defined yet. Anyways, they can be revived, and we also thought about bringing the dead body back to the front door so that players can be rewarded for that again. But yeah, I think.
Actually, to answer your questions, we did not plan on having actual mechanic when you are down. We have a spec mode, which is like basically a Lethal Company spec mode. So you can hear the other people who are down too, but you can hear the players who are alive, but they cannot hear you. So this is not actual gameplay mechanics, but this is how we plan to do it. And yeah, it's actually a very good point. Maybe we'll think about maybe be able to do something while we're down. We'll see, but yeah, thank you for inputs.
Hi, yeah, so I'm Remy from Pancake Asia. Thank you for the presentation. What really, I think, so the whole project seems really interesting, but what bothers me is that this is a multiplayer game, and halfway through the presentation, I was like, why is this a multiplayer game? So someone already asked about the mechanics, and from your answer, it feels like they're still kind of being decided. They're not really nailed down yet. And yeah, I'm just confused as to why this game is multiplayer, I guess. I did know that, I did know your ambitions to make some sort of social experience, I guess. But what are you going for beyond that, I guess?
Yes, well, since no one was wrong. It's a good question, honestly. Honestly, that was how the game was pitched in the first place. There was like one of the requirements to be online multiplayer. We believe that, yeah, I mean, this is what you said. We wanted to be social horror, and we want to create these moments where you are with your friends in a room, then they go to the other room. You talk to them, but they don't hear you. Then they get killed, and then you hear like a scream from another room, and that's the kind of experience we want to propose. So that's why we wanted to be multiplayer. We want basically we want you to hear your friends scream in the microphones, basically. No, I mean that's the horror aspect. But beside of that, we want to work together and be able to actually talk to each other. Because the mimics are designed to literally be impossible to 1v1, or maybe not even 2v1. So yeah, if that's partly answer the questions.
And I think also a big part of the experience is actually talking to your friends or the people who play with you and make a plan, and then having that plan be completely thrown overboard by how the mimic reacts to you and how everything is going sideways, and then the horror and everything kicks in. So I think that's also one of the reasons.
I have a follow-up questions.
Oh,
no. Are you considering a single-player mode or even a couch multiplayer mode? Or are you fully committed to the online multiplayer?
No, that was not in the intention. So there will be no couch co-op, and for maybe we thought about a solo experience, but we think a lot of the funny moments in the games happens when, I'm going to repeat it again, but it's funny when you are together, you discuss, and then you are alone, and this is where it's scary. And I think it's going to be difficult for us to recreate that experience when you're just alone. Because it's going to be a completely different game loop if you're just alone. So for now, it was not intended.
Yep. A final question.
Hello, Amandine, come from Ubisoft. When I see your reference for the characters, I don't know why you have choose a beekeeper look like design, because yeah, it's more like interesting to have biohazard things or Ghostbusters things to have more impressive things.
Okay. Lore-wise, the characters are not professional mimic hunters initially. So they kind of made their outfit with what they could find. what I had in mind is that initially there were standard pest control exterminators. So you know the guys that come into your house and put a lot of gas everywhere to kill all the bugs in your beds and your sheets, etc. And they wear this kind of beekeeper thing with the net on the face, etc. So yeah, the beekeeper is more known, but it's not what it comes from. And also the mimics create some kinds of goo. It's some things we talked about, but not in the presentation. Like some mimics could throw acid at you or spit things like that. So a full suit like this is also to prevent this from touching you.
Okay. Thank you for the answer.
So thank you, and maybe let's congrats the team for this first presentation. And let's welcome the next one. They make sound.
Hello everyone, and welcome to our project presentation. Be ready to going through the abyss with us with our game They Make Sounds. First of all, and because it's the first time that you see us, just a quick presentation of the team. So as level designer, we have Faer. As system and narrative design, we have Maxence. Me, Florian, as producer. Theo and Marina as programmer. Margot as UX UI designer and user researcher. Enzo as game audio game designer. Brice as concept and UI artist, and Benjamin and Anaïs as 3D artists. So what is They Make Sound? They Make Sound is a third-person speleology and exploration game. The character is an archaeologist who descends into the abyss to study the ruins of a mysterious extinct civilization. For this journey of no return, she is equipped with a device for hearing the sounds of extinct life forms. And before going into more details of the game, here is the positioning matrix of They Make Sounds. That is located on the top right corner of the matrix. And with this game, we target players that want to discover the unknown, that like slow-paced gameplay, and who wants to create their own path by exploration. So our targets are the adventure and exploration game lovers, and so the mid-core gamers. In terms of duration, we aim for 8 to 10 hours experience. And we want to sell the game on PC and consoles. And by consoles, I mean Xbox Series, PlayStation 5, and Switch 2. And finally, the price, that is for the moment an estimation based on competitors, that is around €24.99.
So the pillars for the game are free navigation. The player can choose the path they wish to take and explore freely. Narration linked to the gameplay, meaning that we try to make sure that the mechanics of the game make sense in the lore. And finally, we have a little bit of resource management, because the use of artifact, to use the artifact, the player will need to find resources to build, for example, new ropes.
I'm going to present three mechanics of the game. First one is the lifeline. It's a glorified checkpoint system where you can tie your soul to a pillar and resurrect there when you die. You will be able to explore the abyss using a zipline, a glider, and a rope system. Finally, you will be equipped with a sonoscope that allows you to detect sounds made thousands of years ago. They will guide you to points of interest and help you solve puzzles. Descending into the abyss will not be an easy task. To survive your journey, you will need to plan your trip, as a descent can be dangerous. Manage your resources so you don't run out of ropes, for example. And be careful, as ropes can break. All your predecessors who came down before you never return. So descending the abyss is a journey of no return.
So, you're in a corridor leading to an open area and discover a lifeline pillar. You tie your lifeline to the pillar and start exploring the surrounding area. You pick fibers from a tree, which turn into rope in your bag. You take out your sonoscope and spot a ruin in the abyss below. You use your zipline to descend to a reachable area and use your glider to slow your fall and reach the ruin. It's hard and dangerous, but you make it without falling. You discover the ruins of a temple and use your sonoscope to listen to the sound produced by each statue and realize it's a sound puzzle that you will need to solve in order to uncover the ruins' mystery.
These systems are created in pair with the level design. The player will be able to explore 6 different zones. Each of them will be unique, not only in terms of mood or visuals, but also in terms of exploration, verticality, and ruins to explore. Here, you can see the river chasm zone. These natural labyrinths will force players to rely heavily on ziplines while using their sonoscope to discover waypoints and ruins. Alongside of this exploration, they will be able to find loot, such as plants to craft ropes, and other secret artifacts in nooks and crannies. Talking about discoveries, ruins with sound, let's talk a bit about narration. Sound is at the heart of the old civilization that once lived in the abyss. We needed strong visuals to represent that in the narrative while keeping the player engaged in exploration. So we came up with what you can see here, a constructed language we made for the game. Each glyph is a visual representation of specific sounds, and the most curious players may be able to decipher them.
So for the mood board, it's for our first zone, which is River Chasm. The idea was to work on a global atmosphere and a color palette to determine the mood of the area. The goal is to transcribe a damp environment with rocks and some vegetation that preserves some ruins of a civilization that our characters make researches on. And we also did go to the Gouffre of Padirac and to the Église of Auveterre to take some pictures to have more realistic references. For the concept art, the goal was to give some materials to the team so they can have a first vision of what could be a river chasm in terms of visuals. We worked from screenshots of the 3D level design blockouts of our game designers to transform them into quick thumbnails to put down the graphics intentions of the area.
The character comes from the civilization above. The main characteristic of this civilization are rounded and soft shapes with a sense of details with organic lines. So we have the blockout and the concept of the explorer, and the next step will be the high poly for more details.
All right, now let's talk about the ecosystem of the chasm. We decided to build it around bioluminescence. We worked on some effects like this flying medusa that can illuminate the character's path when it is approached. On the right, you can see a rendition of sound interference patterns where energy is emitted from an evolving shape. we also have been prototyping some base building blocks for the environment, like cliffs and grounds and stalactites.
Although the art direction led us to a path where everything has its own life, its own sound, as it represents a part of the world, we conclude irremediably that sound is life and life is sound. We took the sound domain as an extensive part of the gameplay, where we should be able to link the elements to their proper existence, their shape, their meaning, or maybe their language. So with their three big categories that rose during the conception, which are biophony, the sounds made by plants, living organisms, non-anthropomorphic one, so other plants. We also have geophony, the sounds made by mineral materials, all the rumbles and things linked to the environment, the ones coming from inert materials. Last but not least, we've got anthropophony, the sounds you'll make by stepping, modifying your environment, scanning around, and using all your tools.
So, as our game relies on exploration and other skills and reflexes, we want as much as possible, as much people as possible to be able to enjoy this contemplative and adventurous experience. Therefore, we decided to focus on letting the player decide how they want to play and enjoy the game. So options will allow lifeline to be infinite and the zipline and ropes to be much more durable than usual. Sounds has a particular place in our game, as you may have understood. Consequently, we aim to create an adapted experience for hearing impaired players. The hearing device will especially be designed with this idea in mind, and we will implement sound visualization and sound subtitles option, as well as haptic feedbacks.
For the vertical slice, we will focus ourselves on river chasm. That is happening like 1 hour and a half after the beginning of the game. The idea is to explore this zone in first, show the mechanics that will lead to the city gates that are closed with a puzzle, and it will be composed of blockout and beauty corners. And this concludes our presentation. Thank you for your attention, and if you have any questions, do not hesitate to ask us now or later on the Plateau project.
Thank you. So who wants to start with questions, remarks? Yeah.
Hello, this is Mathieu from Tactical Adventures again. Thank you for the presentation and a very exciting project. I have just a small concern, and maybe I'm completely wrong, but it's the fact that the main character is a fantasy character, and you're exploring a strange universe. But I don't know if you heard of the expression "a stranger in a strange land," but if the character is already fantastic, then the environment you're going to explore is going to appear not as fantastic and original. So instead of having a human character facing a completely alien world and having more surprise and contrast between what we're used to and what we're actually discovering. So I don't know if there's a specific reason why you wanted to have this setup or not. Thank you.
So yes, the character is stranger to the chasm, but she has a link to the chasm. So we are balancing this fine line between making links between the chasm and the character, because the character is drawn to the bottom of the chasm because it's linked to her. So there is a fine line to balance, to have a character that is in a position with the chasm, but also can be linked to it.
Hello, thank you for the presentation. Very impressive project. I have just a question. You have talked about danger. What's dangerous in the game? Because don't tell me, or the character will fall to break the leg. Don't understand.
So yeah, as we said, there is many dangers in the abyss. For the vertical slice, we are not focusing on ecosystem parts danger, but in the main game it might be. It's not something that we completely ruled out. But for the vertical slice, there are also many ways that the player can die. You have fall damage if you miss a jump, for example. That's one of them. We have also what we call abyss. These are zones where if the player just fall, even if it's not, it's bottomless. So there is a kill zone, the player die instantly. Even if it's not from fall damage where he can actually land. And that comes also from the rope system, where the ropes can break when they take a zip line, for example, if they didn't make it properly or if they miss something, the rope might just break and they can fall and die of fall damage. We can also code, and we add some ideas for that, specific scenarios where the ceiling might break apart and fall on the player. So these are main ways that you can die. We are taking heavy inspiration for speleology and exploration of caves for that. So there are not that many ways to die, but many instances where you can die.
Hello, Remy again from Ubisoft. I will bounce on the answer. You said the rope can break if the player doesn't make them properly, or if they are wrongly set. Can you elaborate on that? Because it could be unfair, and how the player can know if he makes the rope properly or plays them properly?
Yes, so creating ropes takes resources that you got together. And the rope has durability. So keep in mind that when you play the game, if you die or if you whatever, like you can come back to the pillar, you know, like the lifeline system. That means that you can actually use a zipline again, like it's still there because it's not like back in time, you know, what happened actually happened in the game. So that means that you can take several times the same zipline and it has a durability. You can also reinforce the rope by sort of adding resources to the rope so it's better again. And you have a system that's, I guess, it's kind of similar to a skateboard game where when you zipline, for example, you get to stay at the center of a thing, you know, and if you go to the sides, it will break more easily. Like, you know, you will endanger the rope. And if you stay centered, then it will not as much. So there is something like that. Also, I would add that because there is a sort of a bit of like resource management, it means that sometimes you can just be kind of stuck, like in the sense that you didn't manage to take enough resources or you make a bad choice, which is it emulates. I don't know. I guess if you go on a hike or something like that, you can be in danger if you don't have enough of what it takes to survive. And so, of course, you can kill yourself and go back to the sorry, but it's kind of what it is to the pillar. But it's a choice you have to make. So, yeah, basically.
Just to add on that, yes, you can run out of stuff, but you never run out of options. The level design is made in a way that even if you can't take the path you wanted to take, you can still achieve to cross the abyss from top to bottom without needing really anything, but you have to be clever about it.
Thank you.
Is there some other questions or remarks?
sorry.
Hi, thanks again for the presentation. It's really refreshing to see like such a focus on sound and having it like tell a story like without like this is going to be super interesting to follow and how you're gonna use this as like signs and feedback for the player. So really looking forward to it. I guess like people already kind of like asked like some of the like remarks I had about like the struggling to figure out what the threats the player will be confronted with. But I think there's also like for me, maybe it's something that I've missed during the presentation, but the more overarching like the last point of the loop is why am I exploring this space? You mentioned also like you mentioned that you're gonna go and explore and find puzzles. So yeah, kind of like two questions in one. First is like why am I exploring this space? And if it's to find puzzle, what kind of puzzle are you thinking about already?
Yes, so thanks for your feedback and question. The reason you go back, like you come from the civilization of above, and there is a civilization that used to live in the abyss. When you descend, the more you descend, the more you discover new stuff, and also because this civilization went down, down and down and down, the more you descend, the more it's from the present, you know, like it's from the past at the top, and the more you descend, the more it's closer to your timeline, you know what I mean? And so it's like, yeah, so basically it's a way to tell the story and uncover the mystery of the runes as you go down. The reason you're doing that is because you're an archaeologist and you want to discover as much things about that civilization as possible and send it back to the people at the surface with a balloon system and with generation and generation of scientists, I guess, they will discover more and more about this this civilization. That's the first reason. And the second reason is more, I guess, personal to the character. You have like a heart that doesn't beat as a character. It does make a little sound, but it doesn't beat. And so as you progress through the game, you discover that people from the abyss also has this particularity. And there is a sound that comes from very deep into the abyss that you can hear with your sonoscope, and it's very mysterious, and you feel like it resonates with other sounds in the abyss, and so you want to discover what is that sound that the people of that civilization study and pray, and so there is a mystery about that sound that is very, very deep into the abyss, and you want to go there to solve that mystery, basically.
Thank you.
And I think that there was a question about the puzzles. Maybe you
sorry.
have elements on that.
Sorry. Yes, so we will want to focus probably on puzzles involving the sounds. So we don't have a lot of clear ideas right now because that's not what we worked on. But for example, imagine having statues that make each of them make a different sound, and maybe you can push the statues and you get to discover, you know, listening to each statue's sound and push them in an order that creates a frame and stuff like that. But basically, my answer is that we will try to use the sound system as much as we can because that's interesting and that's you know, a special thing in our game, I guess. But I don't have a precise example yet. But
and to add on that, we also have the special language we talk about that we have constructed especially for the game. That's something we are keeping in mind when we are building stuff out like puzzles, because we know that we can use this specific that we can use in the narrative, but also if the player can decipher that, and we can, personally I can read the language, so I know that it's possible and that we can teach people to learn that. So it's also one way to do it. We can also use the mind of the player to, okay, I can change that circle so it can resemble that shape, and that is also making a sound, and we can having a dialogue with the player with that language.
Hi, really nice presentation. That was
So nice to see with all the sounds and everything. Really, really nice. Really convincing as well. One thing that struck me is that all of the 2D concept art that we saw looks really, really good and stylish, but you are making a 3D game. So how are you thinking of translating the 2D concept art to the 3D game and environment and characters and everything? You did show off the particle work that was really good as well. Well done on that. And also, kind of a separate question, but are you planning to integrate some of the 2D art to the game or not really?
So for the first question, we are actually working on this with Benjamin. Like I tried to make like some stylized concept, but this is more about a mood and like an atmosphere than a really exact like environment or something. So yeah, Benjamin is going to like work on 3D assets and maybe like working on shaders and this sort of thing to like have like this unique visual thing, but still like realistic also. So it's like a balance to have and to search, but we are on it. And I forgot, sorry, about the second question.
I was wondering if you were planning to integrate some 2D art to the game or not really.
Probably for the UI, we think, but we haven't yet thought about it that much. So it's ongoing. And yeah, we have also maybe a notebook that our character have to like take notes of her journey in the abyss. So this is something that we have in mind too.
Thank you. So if there's no other questions or remark, I'm just checking if I'm not missing one. Neither online. So please, let's congrats the team. And let's welcome the third team and the last team of this morning. See you, Star Station.
Okay, hello everyone. Let's go back to the surface and explore around in CU Star Station. So, all around the world, a very strange world without much borders. Thousands of magical girls travel around to help each other, fighting for justice and trying to find a good place to stay. We play as a magical girl who hasn't found her place yet, in a symbolic way. And she's on a train trip with her phone sidekick to up around too. And as she discovers new cities, new places, new friends, new enemies, she will learn about herself. She will question her goals, the meaning of life, and everything else. and she will learn without noticing that traveling is actually making her who she is.
So let's talk a bit about the game. The game is a 3D platformer with a very exploration and narrative focus. Our platform is, we're aiming for a console release, probably Switch. You'll see that our game kind of looks like a Switch game, so it's going to be nice. And the playtime is 10 to 12 hours for the main experience, over 10 chapters of variable duration. Game pillars, we have 4, hang on. The first one is find your place. So we're going to talk about, it's going to be a story about self-questioning through the beauty and loneliness of travel, the whole trying to fit in. Then we have a modern take on magical girls. So European young adults' modern take on the dazzling codes and aesthetics of magical girls and such. Dynamic exploration. So you run and you jump around in your custom suit that we're going to talk about a bit later. And you have unique abilities and you adapt to your world with those. And finally, memorable encounters. So you meet wacky but endearing friends and you face unique and complex foes.
Okay, about our story and our main character at first. She's a magical girl too, so a hero saving lives and stuff. But we want to break away from the Japanese influence of magical girls. So this also means that she is not a middle schooler or high schooler as usual, but she's an adult. She has adult problems. And she's on her first travel. She has this first job. She finished her studies. And she has no idea what to do with her life. And she's very product of the modern world. She's an overthinker, rebellious and stuff. So we will discover over the course of 10 chapters around 3 tones. So something more lighthearted, something more emotional, and some epic too. And our magical girl will experience a lot of hope at first. Then she will start to doubt about life, about her place, about everything. And then she will know despair. And then she will strike back, okay? And it will be very epic and very emotional. This is something we really want in the game. And this is what we want to talk about, is the notion of place, how unstable it is, how it is hard to find, and how it's not definitive, so it's okay to not find it. And it will go through like very thematic arcs and character arcs and very complex and layered enemies.
So, in the game, our MC will switch between a wide variety of magical suits with their own abilities. So we want each one of them to feel original and to quickly reflect their utility. They're magical, so we also want them to feel extra and fun, while inspiring some nostalgia to the player, hence the Y2K aesthetic. Okay, so we also have to keep in mind that the camera is placed above our MC. I'm sorry, there was a picture to show that, but it didn't appear. So our shoes and gloves will mostly be linked to our magical ability. For example, she could have boots that make her walk on water. So we need to put the focus on her hands and feet.
So, as we said earlier, our game is going to be in 3D, and we want it to be still-sized. For the character, we were mainly inspired by the game Bayonetta Origins, and we took the character model as a reference. So the idea is that we will only use base color textures that are bumped by with shaders and outlines, and we are going to use a warm-up texture to create details. So as you can see, it's texture that is always facing the cameras, even if the character is moving and everything. And so with a few things, we can create cool effects on the character. And we think about facial expression, and we are going to use 2D facial expression. So we have to create different expression on textures that can be slide to switch between expression. It's faster and easier to do and sufficient because we don't have close-up dialogues in the game.
So before jumping up into the environment, a quick word about artistic direction. We aim to mainly depict countryside and small cities environment. As we said, steering away from Japanese cliché and depicting more European stylized environment with a dash of surrealism. So now we have a character, we have a story, everything of this needs to evolve in our environment. So where are we? We are, as I said, in a countryside and small city inspired environment. So we have here, for example, small cities, a small city with a weird-ish shapes that doesn't really tie to our real world. We have a place that is transformed by past conflicts. That means that before, magical girls have fought against other enemies, and we have traces of this into the environment. So, for example, here we have a giant glass star that falls from the sky into a train station, and people just kind of get used to it, tagged it, carved it, and kept it here. Here, for example, we have an example of a way to create a diverse and rich and original environment, I hope, because we are an exploration game and we have such a heavy emphasis environment. So here, I imagined buildings that were like traveling into huge rails in the sky. So this will allow me to reuse, for example, the building I used on the ground to put them in the sky is this kind of giant train that travels. And lastly, we have guidelines, but we kind of don't refuse to have anything. So that means that if we want to have a train that use little hands to grab the power line, we're gonna do it.
Okay, so let's dive a bit more about in the gameplay loop. So it will be in 3 phases that will then break the formula a bit, but they are very tied together. All the phases are influenced by each other. So we'll start with the introspection that takes place in the train. So between two destinations, you will be in sort of visual novel experience where you will talk to yourself, but also talk to other characters, and maybe text on your phone, and you will learn about your past and your present, and you will take a moment to breathe, and it's very emotionally important. So the choices you make in this phase are gathered in some kind of personality test where we will try to record and understand what the player is feeling for the magical girl, and we will finally get this emotion and put it in a sparkle suit. This sparkle suit, it will act as like some kind of hidden narrative skill tree that you don't control, and the choices you made narratively will impact your gameplay on the next phase by giving you a suit with special abilities. Like, for example, maybe if you have the raincoat, you will walk on water.
So now let's talk about exploration. So the exploration phase takes place in a 3D space with a free camera, like in Mario Odyssey, for example. When arriving on a new destination, our goal is to discover the problem looming over the inhabitants. To fulfill this mission, we have to explore the town and its surrounding to find hints and people to talk with and learn more about the origin of the problem and finally its location. Our sparkle suits will modify the way we navigate the town. So let's suppose we want to reach the star on the roof of the tower. If during introspection we unlocked the roller chute, we will be able to make high jump with ramps or to slide on ramps, for instance. We can now find a ramp to reach a roof and then use the electric poles to slide and reach the top of the tower. On the other hand, if we unlocked the raincoat, we are now able to walk on water or clouds, for example. We can use the fountain as a bumper to reach the first cloud and then jump to the next one until reaching the top of the tower again. Finally, we can use our camera as an investigation tool with the press of a button. The player opens up a camera on their phone. They can take pictures on things around them, just like Nahida in Genshin Impact. see the reference. Taking a picture of invisible clues, whether it be prints, text, additional dialogues with spirits and such, reveals them.
So this brings us to the UI and the VFX. We want them to blend with our juicy and dynamic gameplay and evoke a strong sense of connection between our protagonist and our world. To really immerse the player, we think of having an intradiegetic UI via our sidekick. To put those intentions in perspective, here are some assets we'd like to integrate in the UI, such as, for example, the use of postcards to represent each chapter. The sidekick will eventually be our protagonist font. Here are two main inspirations for the design of the UI and the VFX. So urban maps and Frutiger Metro, which is a subgenre of the aesthetic Frutiger era. It's from around the 2010, so it brings the nostalgia we already bring in our characters' outfits. The challenge will be to blend these two using their common elements while keeping in mind the key idea of dynamism. So here are some tests we made about the VFX. And here are some tests we made in the engine the programmer made.
Third and last phase, we're going to talk about confrontation. Sorry. So there you go. You're going to confront a rampaging boss. So one of our main references is Astrobot, these kind of big cinematic fights that you can find in these sort of games. The goal is to reach the opponent, whether it be physically by platforming to them or emotionally, because there's going to be a phase where you talk to them. There you go. When you reach the enemy, you're going to have a dialogue phase with them where you can interact and you can kind of deepen your understanding of each other, try and get to the bottom of why they're rampaging, what's happening, and try to, resolve things in a non-violent way. And there you go. That's the loop. Then you hop on the train, you get back to introspecting, and you do that again for 10 chapters with a few variations.
This is a mocap.
So we know it's a lot, and all the phases of our game are interconnected, so we decided to make them all, so the game could work. But we will only produce a little part of one chapter over the 10 we think about. So we chose the chapter which represents the best what we want to say with our game. And usually, as we said before, the player is going through the introspection phase, then the exploration one and confrontation. But for the vertical slice, we will start directly in the exploration phase with a determined suit. Then the player will go through the confrontation phase, then introspect on the chapter it just went through. And the vertical slice will end on choosing the suit for the next chapter. And so we can keep the scope makeable. We will make everything, but in smaller. Here are the details if you're interested. And also we thought about making one full polished scene in sound, in visuals, in everything. So if that means we need to have some other parts only in the blockout version, it will be okay for us. Thank you for listening, and here are all the members of the team. Thank you.
Thank you. So who wants to start? Question, reactions? Yeah.
Thank you for the presentation. Once again, I'm reminded that sound designers in this school are really, really good. It sounds amazing. I'm looking forward to it. A question I have is, again, I probably have multiple of them. The first one is mostly about this hidden narrative skill tree that you mentioned. And while I find it really interesting to have like this visual novel phase in the game and having some like a very strong incentive on the narrative, I feel like maybe the player might feel like they're not having a control about the ability that they're going to choose with this. So is that something you thought about? Is that something that you plan on? Like, what are you planning so that the player don't feel that way?
So yeah, it's something that we talked about, the not giving control to the player over the suit that they have. I think it goes in pair with what we want to kind of say with the game, that you don't always control the narrative of your own story, and players have to adapt. Kind of, we're going to make all of them interesting. So when you start a level, no matter what you have, you're going to have a good time, and I think it's also a good way to promote replayability, because you can just come back at the end and redo the levels and do them with another suit. That could be pretty cool. So yeah, it's stuff we thought about, and I think it's something that we want to keep. Just not giving the agency over that is pretty important.
Another quick question about the boss phase and confrontation. You mentioned that it's about like doubting and understanding. How is the previous phases are gonna impact that? How like you mentioned like there's like the introspection, exploration, and the boss confrontation. How are those two first part of the loop gonna affect that confrontation? You mentioned that you're gonna dialogue with them, and that most of the challenge is going to be getting to them with like traversal mechanics. So what I like this, can you try and elaborate a bit more on that?
Yeah, of course. So every phase is kind of interconnected in the sense that you introspect about what happened before, and what happened before is generally a boss. So you're going to reflect on that, and information that you gather during the exploration is generally directly connected to the narrative of the boss. The boss is, I don't know, like a boss could be wanting a lot of attention, and the people around the town that you explore kind of talk to you about that, talk about the concept of needing attention or directly relating to the boss. And then when you get to the boss, you can talk about what you've learned and also your own experience, and all of that are stuff that are going to make you resonate with them and them resonate with you, and probably get to a meaningful discussion and hopefully a positive outcome.
We do have questions online. Mishka, can you start?
Yes, thank you. So I have many questions also, but I will try to keep it short. Great presentation, honestly. Um, the first one, I'm a bit afraid of the scope you're taking on this game. I don't know how many suits you think you would like to have in the final product. If you have that in mind already, or you're just like seeing what the game brings or asks of you. It's a big design space that you can explore, but it can get your level design to a really big scope. Uh, and regarding to that, how big are the maps? Like the cities you're gonna explore? Do you have an idea on that? That can also get your scope really, really big, and it's a bit frightening. And on the other side, I'm really interested in the narrative aspect of games, and this has a really big influence on of manga and anime, right? I was thinking of the like Madoka, One Punch Man, mangas in the last time that have redo some genres, like playing with that. Are you basing this on some of these? Are you redoing the Magical Girl completely? Do you have an influence in mind? Yeah, I would love to know about that. Thank you very much.
Thanks for the questions. First, I will answer about the scope and level design parts. So about the suits, we are designing 3 suits per chapter, but for the vertical slice, we are like doing 1 polish with all the animation and the aesthetic parts, and probably another one more blocky, but with the gameplay aspects totally integrated. And for the level design, the size of the levels will be variable during the story. For instance, we'll have some small town with many narrative aspects, and more like huge buildings maybe with a lot of verticality. So we are quite free to choose the location we will have to explore for the vertical slice. And also we don't want to do a huge space. We want maybe to create like a more small space, but with a deepened compression, like you can see the place with different eyesight based on the suit you have. So, for instance, like I said, for the tower, that's just a tower, but you can reach it by 3 ways difference, because you have 3 different shoots. So the main challenge will be to think about a place and many ways to reach it in the same same environments. That's quite a challenge, but we want to test it. We want to try it because, yeah, I think it's worth it.
And so for the genre of Magical Girl, we don't want to take to break completely the genre. We want to take it and modernize it. So it's more we can more relate about that. Hence the European countryside. The Magical Girl is like our protagonist is 24 years old, so it's a bit like us, but we don't want it to break completely.
Thank you. We're gonna take another questions online, and then back to the room. So Marguerite, if you want to ask your question.
Yes. So I'm Marguerite. I'm a senior narrative designer, and nice to meet you all. Thank you for the presentation. I had a few questions about the narrative aspect of your game. So it has a very spirit-farer vibe. So if I understood correctly, meeting
Okay, thank you for your feedback and your questions. I forgot the first question. so, um, so uh, yes. Yes. Okay. So we didn't present the 10 chapters because I mean we don't have the time to do so. But we already thought about how to tell the story and what the magical girl will go through, and it will start off with like some subjects with every chapter will have a thematic boss and character arc and some other side characters that will tell one thing about our theme of finding your place, because finding your place is very large, it's very broad theme about it could be anything, it depends on anyone. So the first chapters will be a bit more lighthearted about some side subjects of it, like as we say, like attention is one thing of like wanting to be loved, wanting the acceptance of the others is one chapter that could be talked about, and but it will go more and more about the actual reality of finding your place and the actual questions that are. The more we go through the game, the harder the questions our magical girl will ask herself. The more it will be about really what she wants and what she think life is. We will talk about the society, about how to defy it, about a lot of things. That's a lot, honestly. But yes, we'll try to connect all of it into a last. In the 9th chapter, she will lose hope and she will like question all of this and be like, well, we can't decide what we do with our life. We just have to take the main path and deal with it. But then she will realize that all she went through showed her that everyone is searching for their place and no one really found it because it's not definitive. And this is something we want to tell with the game. It's something that should resonate with young people, especially today, but also with other people. Yes, I don't know if that answers the question. Okay.
Thanks for the presentation. It's a really compelling project, really interesting. And I'm so sorry for the question that I have, because it's very mean, but I do want you to think about it. This is a very ambitious project. I mean, you say it yourself when you talked about the vertical slice. This is a lot of work. So what are you going to cut? Like, what are you willing to part with here?
As you said, we know it's huge. We thought about some of the aspects of the game we could fake and not produce, actually, like the visual novel part, for example. And as I said earlier, we will try to make little things. We will choose the sparkle suits, for example, really in a clever way to save time for the production, and we'll adapt. Oh no.
So we also thought about the way we will produce our assets so that we can reuse it, like in the city or in the skies. Yes, we can. The exercise is to show you in February our vertical slice, but we can only show you a movie and a video. So yes, we can take it many parts. So we will start with the hardest part of the game and the complex one. We thought about to polish the boss part because it will impact our controller and all our VFX and all of this. So we can focus on this and reuse all our work on the other part, or fake it if we don't have time. And also we will do
regular reviews and build to always have a game with the latest work we produced.
Hi, I'm Leili from Arte, line producer and project manager. First of all, congratulations. The presentation was very nice and the game looks very pretty. I'm really liking the modern twist you're putting on it. My first remark was joining what my colleague in front of me said about the ambition of the project. Like my advice is to really think about what you can do and what you really want to focus on. Take the time to really think of it and make it like put effort into the main core elements. And my question is more about, I'm having trouble understanding the confrontation part of the game and how it really works narratively. Maybe I didn't understand a part of the presentation. I'm really curious to see you elaborate a little bit on that, how it integrates into the story and the lore of the game.
So we'll have a chance to talk about it this afternoon too. But a quick summary is, I think our references kind of speak for themselves in the sense that we have Undertale and you know, we have Celeste, Undertale, and Astrobot. I think those are the three that are on the slide. The three kind of mix and match in the sense that you get to the boss. So there's a platforming sequence like in Celeste. Then you talk to the boss. It's not necessarily a direct confrontation like in Undertale where you kind of have a dialogue sequence and they're pretty cinematic and kind of, you know, the Nintendo vibe where you jump on the head of the rabbit 3 times and then it dies. So that sort of stuff. I think we're trying to jumble all these 3 things and make it into something cohesive. And we're going to play on the fact that we have learnings from the introspection phase and then the exploration phase and make the player, you know, use their suit to their full potential and then dialogue to their full potential and try to make everything cohesive. I think it ties the 3 gameplay parts that we have together and it makes it so we don't have 3 separate games and we have one whole game.
Just to add a little more thing is that the dialogue part, there's like, you cannot lose really the dialogue part. It's more about a different end, narrative end to the both, depending on what you use to like calm them down or talk to them or what you understood of the situation. But it's purely narrative and then it will change. There's a lot of narrative branching, but yes, it works, kinda, I don't know.
Hello, this is still Mathieu from Tactical Adventure. Thank you for the presentation. I have a question regarding the game itself. So first of all, I understand this is not a game for me. I'm a white male above 50, so maybe I don't connect to the experience. But still, I feel I should be able to understand the game, and I had difficulty grasping what the game is exactly. It feels the originality is more mishmashing different styles of gameplay together without having a true core game mechanic or something distinctive which you can use. So it's both an exploration game, a platform game, a visual novel game. So to me, it's, I'm afraid that when you, as my colleague said, when you start cutting stuff, maybe the game construction is going to fail because there's nothing strong at the heart of the game. So I'm sorry if I'm a bit harsh, and maybe it's only me. So yeah, this is my remark. So thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I can answer, to be fair. No, you're not harsh. That's perfectly fine feedback. I think one of the main things when we talk about our game is that we're kind of in, you know, weird waters. I don't remember what the expression is, in the sense that mixing visual novels, which is a kind of a niche with players that play visual novels, usually only play visual novels, and the whole 3D platforming section, trying to make them blend together is probably going to be, at the start, very oil and water-ish, and at some point, we're probably where we are. That's our goal, going to make it blend together and make it into a cohesive experience, and that's the challenge. I think it's the main challenge, and we're facing it head on.
And just to finish, I think you're right, and in the sense we have to think really precisely what could be cut without damaging the core, which is not really a core of the game. I think you're right. Thank you for the warning.
Thank you. I'm just looking if there's other questions or remarks. I see you want to talk to them directly, so we will have more time to do that at the break. I see there's no questions online as well, so let's congratulate the team. Thank you. I see, Marguerite, you have a question, or is it applause? Is it applause? Yeah, maybe it's applause. Sorry, I see that from far. Thank you. Congratulations to all the team of this morning. Thank you also to you for the rich exchange we had this morning. So let's congratulate everybody, please. And let's meet again at 2. So we do have plenty of time. There's lunch organized for the jury downstairs. And after, we have plenty of time to see the teams before joining again here in the room at 2 and online as well. Thanks to the people online too, and we will fix the sound problem during the break. Sorry for that. And so thank you for following online, and we will see at 2 for the rest of the day. Thank you.